I would be stunned. He's a Yale guy, Massachusetts, as hip as the day is long. I would be shocked if he was not into that kind of music from the 60s and Laurel Canyon and all those kinds of things. I know he's into baseball. He's got lots going on with the Mets. And he's TBS, of course, SN1. He says hello. Ronnie, nice to chat. Thanks for a couple minutes. You know I appreciate it. How are you today, pal? Okay?
I'm doing great, Chris. Anytime you can introduce me with the birds and back pages, I'm all good.
You know, it's funny. I had on about a month ago, and I did it on Zoom, and we play. It was an hour, and he brought his guitar. It was one of the highlights of my life. You'll be shocked.
Oh,
Roger McGuinn.
no, oh my goodness, that's unbelievable. What an hour.
Oh, I enjoyed that. And there's a new book out. You love to read, and Ron's written many a good book. New book out called "Rock Me on the Water" by Ronald Brownstein, where he talks about 1974 L.A. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning finalist. 74 L.A. with Nicholson and Beatty, Jackson Brown and Linda Ronstadt, Archie and Mash, and Jerry Brown. Came out on Tuesday. I would be shocked if a Yale guy like you would not get into that. I'd be shocked.
Oh, I mean, the 2 weeks that turned into 2 months with John Lennon out there in Los Angeles and "Rock Me on the Water," of course, one of Jackson Brown's great early hits. So yeah, I'm reading that one for sure.
There you go, Ronnie. It's great to talk. How's your health? Everybody okay? Things good? Let me get a little rundown there first. Everything good?
Everyone's good. I'm looking for my first vaccine, like most of America, but it's coming soon because I live in a good state. So
yeah, I got my first last week, so you'll be in good shape there. All right, let's do Lindor first. First. I don't think he's going to sign by Thursday. I think he kind of wants to play it out and see what's out there at the end of the year. What is your take on that first? Let me hear. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty historic offer if all the things we read is right. 10 years, 325. What I've read is probably what you've read and heard. 12 years, 385 is what Lindor might want. That doesn't seem to be. I mean, in my checking account, that's a big number. But in others' checking accounts, other people's checking account, it doesn't seem like that would be something that they can't get past. But like you say, Chris, this is the kind of thing, these complicated contracts don't get done overnight. So, hopefully they have the parameters of what they want for the contract, and all they got to do is plug in the numbers. But to me, it seems close enough to make it work.
All right, so you think this could get done. Is Lindor, you have any issues with him as a Met, watching all the Mets, that you probably seen him in spring training a little bit. You have any issues at all that he's going to fit in like a glove and adapt great to New York? Are you a little worried? A little worried about him trying too hard? What's your take on Lindor here as far as the season is concerned with this Met team? Is this going to be seamless, or could you see a little bumpy road here at the start? What's your take?
No, seamless. I've seen him play about 20 games or so before he became a New York Met. He's one of those guys you can't take your eyes off of because he just loves the game, plays every day because he loves it. He's everything that you'd want in a ball player. Now, arguably, we all could spend the next hour talking about who's the best young shortstop out there. There are so many. But when you have one in the fold and you have one on your team, and he's also a kind of guy, and not all superstars are like this. You know that, Chris. He's a leadership kind of guy. So everything comes in that great package with Lindor. And much like Betts did for the Dodgers last year, now I'm not promising the Mets are going to win a world championship, but there certainly will be a much better team with Lindor.
All right, and you think at the end of the day, Lindor will end his career as a Met? Do you believe that this will get done by the end of the day and that he'll be here for the next 8-9 years?
Yeah, because the Mets have to make it work, Chris. They can probably make some arguments that they could wait to the end of the year, and there's so many other shortstops. They want Lindor. They traded for Lindor. They need him here. And just like the Dodgers last year, if they had not signed Betts to a long-term contract and he was a free agent this year, it would have been a mess for them. It'll be a mess for the Mets.
All right, so you think that will get done. Good job. Ronnie would know, folks, so maybe I'm wrong on this. Ronnie's sharp as a tack. All right, how about overall the Mets team? They should score enough, and then we'll go through the NL East for a sec. They should score enough. Do you think they have enough pitching start of the year behind DeGrom with Stroman and Peterson and some of the guys they're going to throw out there, or are they going to really not come together on the mound until they get Syndergaard and or Carrasco back? That's the issue with the Mets is their mound stuff. What's your take, Ronnie? Let me hear.
Well, they ended up getting some decent depth all around the ball club. So I think their starting staff, especially in the month of April, when DeGrom will make every fourth day rest, he will start. So you'll skip some of the fifth starter positions. That will help them. I think one of the big losses for them is Seth Lugo. When he comes back, that'll solidify their bullpen. I'm with you. I think that they're going to hit enough, and that's going to make a big difference for this team. The only question I have, Chris, and a lot of people have asked the same question, will they catch the ball enough? You know, they have a good pitching staff. It hasn't been as good as they've had in some past ones, but will they catch the ball enough? And I think the guy I'm looking to maybe make a difference is a guy that people have been waiting for to turn into a superstar, and that's Taijuan Walker. I don't think he has to be a superstar with the Mets, but I think this has to be one of those years where people finally say, oh, you know, Walker, he finally found his game.
Now, Walker was good last year, a right-hander. He's bounced around Arizona, Seattle, Toronto, but he was very good last year, so that would give the Met fan hope that, as Ronnie just said, he's coming into his own. All right, how about the defense? No DH, which hurts them in left field. Can Dom Smith catch the ball well enough? Can he catch the ball well enough in left field to, keep his bat in the line? I know he's going to play. Can he catch the ball well enough defensively in left field?
Yeah, I think they're going to make some adjustments, Chris. You know, they'll probably play him a little deeper or a lot deeper than most left fielders you'll see in today's game to keep the ball in front of him. I think he's improved in left field every year since I've seen him there, but he started out as such a raw product that there was a long way to go. I mean, it's got to be very difficult to know that you could maybe win a Gold Glove at your position, but you're forced to play another position because Alonso and all that power and the lack of the DH. Nimmo in center field most of the time, if you do the defensive metrics or even use your eyeballs, he's better on the corners than he is in center, so that'll play itself out too. But the addition of Lindor and the addition of James McCann behind the plate might offset those defensive challenges.
All right, if you were a veteran starter on this staff and you brought a new catcher in, say if you're DeGrom and here comes McCann, would you allow him, and you were a veteran so you would know, would you allow him to go out there and call his game and give him a chance to prove himself, or are you going to take control right away and boss him around? How's that work with him with this Mets pitching staff?
Yeah, I think for most pitchers, everybody game plans more than ever before. They're probably on the same wavelength before the game as well as any place in the history of the game. That being said, I think the best catchers are those that take that game plan, and then once the game starts, they compete. And what I mean by that is that they judge what their pitcher has, what the hitters are doing, if they need to change what they're doing, and all those things. And in every category, I think the boxes are checked for McCann. He's a very intelligent, or has a very intelligent approach to the game. He's an intelligent guy. And I think, to answer your question, will the pitchers allow him to call the game? Certainly. I think they are going to have enough trust that between him and Jeremy Hefner, the pitching coach, and the game plan they put together, that he'll be able to not only work that, but also take the road less traveled if things aren't working.
A lot of people, Ronnie, are very worried about pitchers' injuries this year coming off the 60 games, that they're not going to be sort of battle-tested, and as a result, you're going to see a lot of six-man rotations. A couple of teams already said they're going to do that, a lot of injuries, and a lot of five-inning starts. Is this going to be true?
I think it'll be true for the mid-level pitcher, Chris. It's not going to be true for Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. Would you be shocked if they got into the eighth inning in their first start on Thursday? Of course you wouldn't. So the elite pitchers are going to pitch like nothing's ever happened, like they didn't pitch 60 games last year or a 60-game season. Now, the mid-level performer, we've kind of dumbed down the pitching game, Chris, and we've gotten to a point where you've got to account for so many innings, right? every year has 1,450 innings. Well, if you're asking less and less of pitchers every year, then you need more and more pitchers to combine to pitch those innings. And I think we've gotten to a point now where it's not only the pitchers that are asked less of. I think when you're on the mound, some are expecting that, hey, I did my job. I got 15 outs. Let's go to the bullpen. So that's a place where we got to fix, I think, in the game. You know, these guys are bigger and stronger than anyone who played in my day. As far as a group is concerned, we should be asking more of them, not less.
Yeah, 100% right. Diaz as your closer is the Met closer. Last year better, first year a disaster. He's got a good, fun-loving personality, but you know these are going to be high-pressure games now. A lot of Met fans have a lot of expectations with these ball games this year. What's your take on him? Is he ready to go out there and blossom? What's your thoughts?
Chris, if I could have his arm, I would rip up my baseball card and start my career today. But that's not what it's all about, and you know that, pitching the ninth inning. And he's still a bit enigmatic to me in this sense, is that I think when everything was going right last year, he got on such a roll, and that's what he did a few seasons ago in his last season in Seattle. He got on such a roll, everything went well, and he's able to feed off that. That's not the New York answer. The New York answer, Chris, is that when the you-know-what hits the fan, can you pick yourself up and rebound from a bad outing and not turn one into three bad outings? That, to me, is still a question that is unanswered and one that needs to be answered this season. But as far as arm and competitiveness and all of those things, boy, I'd love to have his athleticism.
I had Steve Stone on earlier today because I wanted to do a couple of trendy teams, and he has obviously got the White Sox. And the Mets and the Padres are the trendy teams in the National League, Ronnie, as you know. Now, the Mets, have been reputed to be pretty good for a 3 or 4 year period now, and there's always something that gets in the way, and they turn, injuries, whatever it might be. And, they had a great run in 15 and 16. They lost to the Giants, but, they made the wild card. They've been really a tease the last 3 or 4 years. They seem to have a little black cloud around them. A lot of people blame it on ownership. It's not fair to do that entirely. They have a little black cloud hovering over them the last 3 or 4. Do you think Steve Cohen, the owner, has eliminated that?
I don't think he's eliminated that. I think what he's done is he's come in and what does every fan base want, Chris? At some point, they want their owner to love the team as much as they love the team. And I think Steve has certainly answered that question for Mets fandom. I don't know about a black cloud. I think what happens a lot of times for many teams, Chris, is that the hyperbole before the season starts overshadows maybe some of the deficiencies that teams have. So I believe this is a really good Mets team. But, they're in a division that they finished tied for last season. You can't forget that. And they're also in a division with the Atlanta Braves, who have only gotten better this year. They have a lot of young pitching. Their young superstars are only getting better and more experienced. They might have the most valuable player, or at least one of the top 3 to 5 most valuable players in the National League. And what I mean by that, not the most valuable player award, that if he's not on that ball club, that team is a less of a team, Freddie Freeman. He just does so much for that club. So, I'm a big believer in the belt. The Atlanta Braves have the belt, so I'll give them the respect until the Mets take it away.
All right, and the division top to bottom, Ron, as you do a nice job in the transition there. The Marlins are by far the best last-place team in the sport. I mean, they're better than the Pirates. They're better than Seattle or, Texas. They're certainly better than the Rockies. They're better than Detroit. They're better than the Orioles. And it's a pretty competitive team. The Phillies are bound to be a little better with an improved bullpen. And bullpens have a tendency to go up and down every year anyway. And, the Nationals have 2 good pitchers, and Soto and Turner. And as you said, Atlanta. This is top to bottom the best division in the sport. Would you agree with that?
I do, and I think it's going to be the most competitive in this sense also. People are talking about teams winning 100 games. It might be less in this division because it's going to be very difficult to sweep 3 games. If you get 2 out of 3, that's going to be huge in this division. And playing 19 games, you're not going to see a team beat a team 15 or 14 times. It's going to be closer to a little over 500. So I think it's going to be a very competitive division. I mean, you look at that Miami team, I think their oldest pitcher is, 25, 26 years old, their starting staff. You look, the Mets have improved. Washington has, maybe arguably the best hitter in baseball right now in Juan Soto. The Phillies, Joe Girardi, anytime he manages a team, they're always dangerous. And of course, the Atlanta Braves, who were champions last year and came pretty close to knocking the Dodgers off.
Very close, 3 games to 1 up. How about the rhythm of the 162 for these players, Ron, compared to last year, and a little more of fans? Health protocols will lessen. It will be a little easier to play the game. The length will be difficult, but the game being played on a day-in, day-out basis with some juice in the ballpark, and eventually you would think everybody being vaccinated so you can go out at night, I would think a little easier, and they didn't play a lot last year. I would think they're chomping at the bit. What's your take on that?
I totally agree. Baseball players are built to play every day, Chris. I make this argument with people all the time. If you ask ball players that they would be compensated such, you play every day for an entire season, they could do it. I mean, that's just how they're built. They've always been like that. So I don't think the 162 is going to be an issue. I think, as you said, the protocols easing up is going to make it really fun for them again, maybe to even go to dinner together and do those kind of things. And it's going to give them a better chance at coming together as a team. I think the days of you and I, when we watched in the 60s and 70s, a team who hated each other could still be successful. I think today's player doesn't feel that. I think it's really important for them to be close, tight, and that from this closeness and tightness leads to championship. So
that's an excellent point.
It'll be more fun.
Excellent point. The days of the Bronx Zoo and Nettles hating Reggie and Munson and everything else, hating Billy, and let's win despite it. You can't do that nowadays, can you, Ron?
No.
You very rarely see a team. Why is that? How come that's changed? Let me hear.
Well, I think, just one quick point is that a lot of these guys play with each other on travel teams. They get to learn about, when you're traveling with other ball players or other athletes, that you got to fit in, you got to get along. That makes it all easier. So they're doing this at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, Chris. By the time they get to the major leagues, they know how to be a good teammate. And there's going to be outliers. There's always that guy that you're like, God, he's a great player, but I wish he was playing for someone else. There's always going to be that guy. But for the most part, I see players friendlier to each other now than I've ever seen it before.
All right, 86, you won it, the title. You were the best team regular season. Couple of big scares. Houston, of course, the Red Sox in big trouble. You came back and, down 3-1. You beat them. And you came back in 87, and it took you a long time to get your feet under you. And as it turns out, a little too late. Of course, we all know about the Pendleton home run. Cardinals win the pennant. The Dodgers now, same sort of thing. Dominant team last year, down 3-1 to Atlanta like you were to the Red Sox. Got out of that series, expected to sort of repeat and be great again. Made an addition. You brought McReynolds in. They bring Bauer in. What's your take on the Dodgers wearing that mantle of a title team and a defender trying to win again this year? You like what they stand? They'll be hungry? Let me get a little feel compared to your team 30, 40 years ago. Go ahead.
Yeah, last year they were on a pace to win 116 if they played 162. That's how dominant they were. I think they're going to run away with it this year. They're going to be a 105 win or more club. If they're able to pull off another championship, they're going to go from one of the great teams, one of the teams that had a good team that won a championship to one of the great teams of their era. They really will. And as far as my team was concerned, we had a chance. We didn't pull it off, but we had a chance to have a 3 or 4 year period where we could have put ourselves with the Oakland A's or the Cincinnati Reds, but we did not. We ended up as a team that had one of the greatest seasons of all time. but that's it. We weren't able to distinguish ourselves as one of the greatest teams of all time. The Dodgers get to do that this year.
How come you guys weren't able to do that, Ron? Was it New York, too many personalities? How come the Dodgers have a better chance of doing it than you guys did?
I think that I think for all the different personalities was part of it. I just think that for our team, it was a catch-22. It was a all-out, take no prisoners kind of team, and it ran out of gas, Chris. And I just think that there's multitude of reasons, and we could go through all of them, but I think we just literally ran out of gas of being great for a long period of time. And listen, if it had been the format now, and I'm not making excuses for our team, but if we had been allowed into the playoffs every year from 84 to 90, which we would have if they had today's format, maybe we would have had more opportunities to make some magic, but it wasn't to be, and we didn't get it done. I don't know the reason, but we ran out of gas.
And that's a good point. The Dodgers are not that kind of team. They play it a little differently. They pace themselves differently. They don't hate the opponent. That will help them in your eyes. They're a little more placid, a little bit more even keel. So you think that will help them more in their effort to repeat, correct?
Yes, and you don't hear a lot of yelling and screaming and boasting and pounding on their chest in Los Angeles. They're a very classy team, very much like their manager, Dave Roberts, and they just come to play every day and they get it done. And with the different players that they're able to use and the depth of their talent, no one gets tired, no one gets sick, and they throw out excellence every night. You think about their bench, a lot of their bench players, you took their bench, you might be able to make a team that's better than the Pirates this year. And I'm not kidding when I say that.
Diaz at third base, everything else. A couple last quickies. There's a perfect example. DH this year. I don't like the DH. I'd rather have the pitchers hit. I know everybody's making a big deal about that with hamstrings and broken fingers when you're trying to bunt and everything else. Geez, we've had baseball for 100 years with pitchers battered. And now all of a sudden, because we have 1 year where the pitchers did not bat in the NL, it's, how dare we go back to it because of injury? Geez, I love that. I understand it's a different game, but I can't. That's part of the sport if you break your knuckle trying to bunt the ball to third base, for crying out loud. What's your take on that with that argument? Let me hear. Go ahead.
Learn how to bunt, right? I think, Chris, that the public does not want to see pitchers hit anymore. I don't understand it. I love that part of the game. But I do understand that they do not want to see pitchers hit. They don't want to see them run the bases. They only want to see them pitch. And for that reason, baseball. My issue with this is not the DH because it's going to be universal at some point. But the problem I have, Chris, is that you make knee-jerk reactions to public sentiment. So you feel like the public sentiment is people only want to see the DH. That's probably true. But what's the next thing that comes along? That you make a knee-jerk reaction to change the game to public sentiment, and it becomes a disaster. Those are the things that I'm afraid of when you come to try to fit the game to public consumption, because public consumption changes over time.
Yeah, boy, Ronnie's doing a wonder. You're getting Ronnie really thinking here, and that's why he's great. Last thing, La Russa, you pitch for him. I have no problem with him back. I think he's going to be very good for the White Sox. I know he's very into it. I guess he can wear you out if you're a player for him. He's more into it than the players are. I think you love them, though, and I think he'd do well for the White Sox. Give me a little rundown on him at 76 years of age.
I was lucky enough to spend some time talking with him this winter and about him taking this job. And, yes, he's going to be as excited as anyone who's 25 to 30 on that team. And remember, no one dealt with superstars on his ball club better than he did. I loved playing for him because he just told me, I'm going to give you the ball every fifth day, and I'll see you in September. So he is going to be a real addition to that ball club. And listen, I know things have changed, and we feel like, only young people can understand the young athlete. Athletes want to be led, Chris. And who better to lead than a Hall of Fame manager?
Yeah, 100%. All right, the Mets are 90.5. Would you go over or under?
I will go over 90.5. but just a smidge.
Postseason team?
Postseason team, yes.
What a job. Ron, I appreciate it. Buy that book. Buy that book. You won't go wrong. I promise you.
I definitely rock along the water. Okay, got it.
And I'll get you to Shorehaven, you and me. I promise that too.
Okay,
Good job, pal.
Bye, buddy. See you.
All right, very good. Ron Darling, wonderful job.